Hi, everyone. So yeah, thanks everyone for joining our workshop today. I'm Chloe, and Vineeth and Tina are also here. We're part of Ontario DECA's Master Club for the 2020 to 2021 year. So sad to say it's coming to an end, but it's been an amazing year so far for all of us. So yeah, today we're just going to be talking about pitching in three different scenarios. So in a pitching an idea, so like a case competition or kind of like Dragon's Den style at networking events, and then also in an interview. Yeah, and then we're gonna end with a few little activities that'll help us to practice the skills we discussed. And so I'm just going to start off with talking about how to pitch an idea. So I know a lot of you guys are DECA students, and so this is going to be really applicable to when you're doing role plays or even if you're in a written event, any of those case competition style things. So the first thing that you should do is to know the problem and the audience. So you want to understand and tailor the purpose of your pitch and figure out what your idea solves or provides. So focusing everything that you're talking about on that problem and the specific person you're talking to. So think about what your audience wants or needs and how you can meet those specific needs with your new idea. So for a case competition, um, you want to think about what the problem you're trying to tackle is. So don't include details or ideas in your idea, even if you have different ideas that don't meet that specific problem and solve that specific problem. For a pitch, mostly make sure you include the most relevant things and answer why your potential product could um, be needed for your customer. Moving on to the audience, we want to make sure that we tailor the jargon and tone depending on who you're talking to as well. So if they have a higher position than you or a lower position than you, you're going to talk to those two people in a different way. The same goes for a business pitch. If you're pitching to a potential customer versus a potential investor, that you're going to tailor your tone in a different sense. You also want to consider how much they already know about the industry. So for example, if they don't have any idea about the technical stuff of your product, you're not going to talk about that. You're not going to use very industry specific terms. But if they are, then you don't want to, kind of dumb down your idea to talk to them. And you want to make yourself seem a lot more professional and a lot more knowledgeable just so that they're persuaded, because the whole point of doing a pitch is to, persuade someone that your idea is the best idea. The next tip that we have is to be clear and specific. So stay focused on one idea. So this is more applicable for those case competitions and incorporate a lot of key details. This will help you build up a lot of credibility and show that your idea is actually worthwhile and you know what you're talking about. So for a case competition, there's oftentimes when you're brainstorming, there's a lot of different ideas that you come up with, but one really important thing to do is stick to one solution and really build on it and build on those important ideas and details. Don't throw around a bunch because um, a lot of them might be like kind of okay, but if you focus on one and provide a lot of details on why that's the perfect solution, that can really sell yourself and also your idea. In terms of a business pitch, make sure you show that your idea is worthwhile by having actual facts and statistics and being, once again, just as specific and relevant as possible. So some key things that you can implement, obviously you can't, implement all of these things because you don't have that much time usually and you want to get across the most important things, but some things that can make you even more memorable and persuading is having a clear plan and naming your plan. So outlining like a step 1, 2, 3, creating a memorable acronym, something that'll help to make yourself a lot more memorable, including key details that support your ideas, relevant examples, and then also statistics, whether it's about your product, your service, your program, whatever it is, or about the industry in general that help you to prove why they should, you know, want to have your idea with them. Next, you want to make sure you engage the listener. The person listening to you needs to want to listen to you. This ties into the last tip, but basically what you want to do is make the judge pay attention to you out of everyone. So once again, in a case competition, if the judge is listening to 10, 20, 30, 50, 100 presentations, you need to make sure that they want to that they remember you and they aren't, zoning out. Kind of the same goes for a business pitch. Think about in Dragon's Den, like how many people that those judges are listening to and listening to different ideas. Why should they listen to you and why should they give you their time of day? Everyone's really busy. You don't want to waste their time. So make sure you stay engaging and make them want to listen to you. So you might be wondering, how do you do this? So there's three things that I think are very important. The first thing is likability, just being really personable and utilizing things like humor, body language, smile to them. The worst thing is when you're talking to someone and they're just like stone faced, they're like, listen to my idea, but you don't want that. So use good body language, have a confident posture, etc. Also your tone of voice, make sure it's not monotone, like just like you're having an actual conversation with them, not just trying to get them to listen to your business idea or whatever it is that you're talking about. Even though it is important to tie in those, technical terms, those more specific aspects that might be a little bit more boring, using humor and things like that to keep them engaged will definitely help to sell your idea overall. Next, I want to talk about relevancy. So something that can really sell yourself is to talk about people, talk about individual stories and details about how like a person might be applied to this because people like to build those connections with others and like to talk about, other people, how your product might have helped an individual person or how it could help a potential person in the future. And then also how your idea applies to the listener. So once again, knowing your audience. So how your idea specifically helps a specific company, and just making it as relevant as possible to the situation you're in. And then finally, make sure you try and incorporate some creativity. Start and end with a bang. Use a funny anecdote or, something like ask a question that can keep them engaged. Um, and then that will overall help keep your audience engaged. And then they'll want to listen to you and then they'll remember your idea and you'll have sold them and you might, if it's a Dragon Den situation, you might, get that investment, you'll win the pitch competition, anything like that. And then finally, you want to be actionable. So figure out what the next steps are for both you and the listener and, take that initiative to figure out what's coming up next. So in terms of some action items that you can incorporate, this can be dates and timelines. So, next week I'll follow up on this, or I want to schedule a meeting with you afterwards to further discuss this, or what's the timeline for your idea? We're going to be implementing this aspect in the next week, the next aspect in the next month, things like that. Really apply it to your idea. So especially in case competitions when it's a more fictional idea, this can help you stand out because not a lot of people are thinking about after just this one presentation. So that's definitely really important. And then also how you're taking initiative. If you're trying to sell them a product, once again, think Dragon's Den. What's coming up next? How are you taking initiative? Because why should they trust you if you're not gonna, do things for yourself? Just implementing that into your presentation as well as applying to how they are involved in this. So I'm gonna follow up with you, or I'm gonna follow up with someone on your team. Can you connect me to someone on your team to get this train going? Yeah, so that's definitely another really important idea. And then last but not least, the most important thing in anything is to practice, practice, practice. So if it's a case competition, like a DECA style case, do practice as many cases as possible so you can get really good at speaking and also really good at selling your idea and incorporating as many of those things as possible. Remember always that your idea is the best idea when you're doing a pitch. Justify your recommendations as much as possible and refute any of those potential, hesitations or concerns and, just fake it till you make it. Definitely the most important thing. The more you do it, the better you'll get at it. And the more the person listening to you will think you know what you're doing. And then once you fake it enough, you'll actually know what you're doing. And I will pass it on to Tina.
Hello. So next we're going to be talking about how we can pitch ourselves or our ideas at networking events. And typically, chances are that you guys have already been to a networking event, and they kind of fall under a bunch of different scenarios. So networking events are really just a chance for groups of professionals to gather and make connections and really build their network. So this can happen at workshops, at professional um, career conferences, or maybe you've been to like a DECA competition, those also count, or even just like discussions with other peers or other people in the industry. So with all of those, with all the professional talk, I know that it's very easy to get caught up in discussing or pitching ideas or things that are strictly professional or strictly related to the industry. But it's also important to remember that the people that you're talking to are human. So without being too silly or unprofessional, it's important to try to be as authentic and genuine as possible in your conversation. So when appropriate, it is really great if you guys are able to tell a joke or show like personality so that you guys are able to make that connection with your listeners. So, what are some things that we can talk about? People love to talk about themselves. So, when in doubt, it's really awesome to be able to rely on the other person to talk and ask them to share about themselves. So, some common ground that is easy to fall on is the other person, what they're up to, the event you're at, why you're there at the event, or some things that you've noticed about the event. And obviously, lastly, the common interests, hobbies, things that you can pick up on the spot. One way to really get into this is to ask questions. So learning about the other person, being genuinely curious about their lives and what they're up to, that helps a lot. And it helps really just carry the conversation. A lot of the time, you'll find that if you are genuinely just interested in the person, one question will lead to the next. And very soon, I guess there will be lots of things that you guys can talk about. So a simple timeline or some things that we can talk about are their job and their history. For example, what they do on a day-to-day basis or what their job entails. Their journey, so how they got to where they are today. If you're talking to like an older professional or maybe someone more experienced in the industry, you can talk about what they did to get where they are, what experiences they've had. You can fall back on relatable experiences that you've had and ask them about maybe advice or some comments on what they might suggest. Um, and you can also look ahead to what they think might be next in your life. And things like what they like or dislike about their job, advice for yourself or your peers, um, and also just anything. So things that you want to learn about, things that you guys have in common, anything that will get the conversation going and help you guys build that connection. So lastly, I know Chloe mentioned this earlier, but confidence is really key. It's important that we build up that trust and memorability over time, and that really helps stand out. One thing that often happens is I know sometimes we talk and then we freeze and there's not a lot to talk about. So one thing that we can do is always just jump back to conversation earlier. So maybe we talked about siblings or we talked about what they do in their free time and now we're talking about career and we ran out of things to talk about. It's a great idea to jump back and be like, oh, like, what are your siblings up to? Or things like that where you can branch off of previous conversations.
Okay, now
And
I'll
I'll
be,
pass it off.
yeah, thank you for that, Tina. Now I'll be covering something that's probably really relevant to a lot of you, especially as you take on new challenges and you pursue opportunities. A lot of the times you're going to have to do an interview, and it's really important that you know not only how to answer specific questions, but also how to generally pitch about yourself, sell yourself in these contexts. So I'll get right into that. Yeah, so one thing that goes without saying, honestly, but I'll say it anyways, you gotta look the part. Uh, Now, what does this entail? This means dressing up in business formal. Usually, most of the time, if it's not explicitly stated, when an employer, a volunteer organization, they reach out to you and they want to schedule an interview, they won't explicitly say you have to dress up formally, but it's always a good idea to do so anyways because it gives a strong impression, especially the strong first impression. This is the first time they're likely going to be seeing you face to face, and you want to make sure that you give off the right appearance, you give off the right vibes in a sense because uh, that professionality is what helps you set yourself apart and makes you look the part, like it says here. And looking the part isn't just dressing well. You also have to have confident body language. We talked about this earlier, but being confident means having good posture, looking straight in the eye, giving eye contact, using hand gestures, speaking in a varying tone, not a monotonous tone, not a nervous tone. These are all small things that will really help to make the difference when you're interacting with your interviewer. Yeah, another thing, looking the part's great, but there's a lot of other stuff you have to do, like researching everything related, not relevant to the interview beforehand. And the way you do this is by showing that you did your homework. And this showing that you did your homework can go a long way in the interview itself as well. And you're probably wondering, what does he really mean by researching beforehand? And I'll get right into that, I think, in the next slide, I believe. Yeah, this is what it looks like. These are the four real main things that you have to do. So the first one would be reading the job's requirements. This seems pretty basic, but a lot of the time when you're applying to a common position, like cashier, sales associate, stuff like that, um, you're probably thinking, oh, I already know what this is going to be about. It's probably pretty straightforward. Don't really need to worry about the requirements listed on the website. But you absolutely do need to read the job requirements. Usually they'll be accessible and available, and you want to make sure that you read the fine print because there are going to be specific responsibilities that the company, the employer, the volunteer organization, the club, that they outline about the position. And you really don't want to be skipping over any of that because uh, that will help you tailor your pitch, your like how you sell yourself for the position. Um, Number two is understanding the company's values. So let's say, for example, you're interviewing at DECA. Chloe and Tina would know this as well. There are certain values that DECA represents that they like to um, embody. This means being professionality is one of them. Being a strong communicator, that's another value. Being someone who's willing to meet new people and learn, that's another value. And you want to make sure that you include that in how you answer certain questions, and that requires knowing what these values are beforehand. So take a look at the company's website, write down some notes on what it is that they advertise, how it is that they present themselves, and that can be important information. The third way to do your homework is to get insights from industry professionals. Now, what are industry professionals? Let's say you're trying to get a job in accounting. You might want to talk to someone who's a certified accountant, and whether it's through your family network or a friend, a peer, someone that you know, someone who's a connection of a connection, you want to make sure that you can get in touch with someone like that. Now, this is something that really, it's an extra step. It's not always necessary, but it's a good way to really make sure that you're ready to do your interview because you'll get a sense of what exactly is it that these companies are looking for in a candidate by meeting with someone who's been successful in that type of journey, that type of career path. And yeah, lastly, I said this throughout the slide, but tailoring your approach, you want to use all the homework that you gathered, all the research that you gathered, all the information that you compiled, and make sure that you incorporate specific parts of it into your answers. And like for example, when you're answering a question like why would you be a good fit for this position, you want to make sure that you mention some of the key responsibilities of the position and uh, show how your experiences, your skills, your interests, they align with those responsibilities. So yeah, another thing that you really want to do beforehand is also anticipating common questions. These are three questions I'll tell you, like you'll probably encounter a lot. I would not be surprised if 90% of the interviews you you all do at some point will involve these three questions. There's probably more. I would say these are the three main ones. Always have like a response ready to go, not memorized, but one that's rehearsed, and you have an idea of what you're going to say for each one. So tell me about yourself is a common one. I'm not a big fan of the question myself because I think there are better questions to ask in an interview. This one is pretty generic, pretty vague and open-ended, and but it's also that also means it's a good way to set yourself apart. So come prepared with, maybe an interesting fact about yourself, some hobbies, relevant skills and experiences, of course, why you're applying for that position. But usually, the interview will also get more specific with questions. Once they ask you to tell you about yourself, they'll ask the other two ones on the screen. Why are you applying for this position? You want to make sure that you have a really good response for this one because uh, employers want somebody who is genuinely interested in carrying out the responsibilities of the position and who really wants to be there and would be a positive force in the workplace. So showing that you have a genuine interest, you have an enthusiasm for the position is another way to stand out. The last question is why you're a good fit for this position. This is the perfect opportunity to highlight relevant experiences. And let's say, you're not always going to have relevant experiences, and that's all right. You can talk about how, your experience in another part of life, another club organization that's not necessarily 100% related to what you're applying to, but has stuff that can be applicable. So many of you are in DECA, you're going to learn that you're going to experience situations in DECA where you develop impromptu communication skills and also just your ability to connect with people. These are important skills that are transferable to other jobs and environments. So you want to make sure that you can highlight stuff like that when you're asked this particular question. And interviews can be a two-way street. It's not just them asking you questions, it's also you asking them questions. The interviewer will usually, I think 99% of the time, they'll say, okay, that's all the questions that I have for today. Do you have any questions of your own? And I always say, nothing is ever truly optional uh, in these type of things because uh, if you're not going to ask your own unique questions, there will be a candidate who does, who will get the position. So you want to come prepared with questions that are unique and that can help you set yourself apart. Uh, don't try to avoid generic questions, like stuff that could be easily searched up on the internet. Ask them a question that requires them to bring in their own opinion, and that only they could give a response to. Like if you like, these are some of the questions that I would like to ask at any interviews that I have coming up. So what is the work culture like at whatever company that is? That's a response that each person that works at that company, potentially a person interviewing you, they're going to have their own unique response to that, and it will give you a good insight of what the position is like. It'll also show that you're interested in the finer details of working there. What are the challenges? Some of the challenges that your business faces. This shows that maybe you're more of a proactive person. You want to learn about challenges before they really take root. And it shows, again, it's another way to show your interest. And then this is a question that gets a little bit more personal and requires the interviewer kind of opening up. What drew you to this organization? Um, and you can ask these types of questions for sure, and you can make your own. These are just examples that I like to ask because I think they give me good insights into what the company is like as a workplace, what the employees and employers think of how things are going, and also what the future direction of the business is. Yeah, so one of the things that you always want to do is come ready with examples. So every time that you make a claim, uh, what's a good example of a claim you might make? I have great organizational skills. Pretty much everybody is going to say that. Everybody can say that. You want to make sure that you have proof to back it up. Like saying you have great organizational skills, that's terrific, but you want to get deeper than that. You want to give examples of when you had great organizational skills. So when it comes to this, specific examples of how your skills or your experiences will benefit you in the position that you're applying for, they will always beat out big platitudes. So what I mean by this is, yeah, making a broad statement, I have great organizational skills, that's not going to cut it. You want to make sure I have great organizational skills as evidenced by the time I spent managing this club at my high school. And I took on many new challenges such as XYZ, and it gave me exposure to a collaborative environment where I worked with others to organize our resources and prepare for the future. Stuff like that. That was just off the top of my head, but come ready with examples because that will show that there's substance to what you're saying. So I kind of already went over this, but yeah, there's two main ways to bring up examples, highlight experiences. Like I already said, my time leading school clubs has equipped me with logistical skills, when it comes to planning, which is something that's very important in many positions. So you want to make sure that you can bring in relevant experiences and show how they help you develop what type of assets you can bring to the company or the organization that's interviewing you. Another way, this is something that people need to do more, and it's something you should do on every professional, networking site or on your resume, your LinkedIn, whatever it is, right? You want to quantify all of your achievements, because when you say, "Oh, I grew the club," that's not very specific. It doesn't really give me insight into how much you grew the club, or like it could have been one new person joined, and it would technically be the truth, right? You want to give really specific numbers. So as leader of this club, the membership grew by 50%. That gives me a better idea of you, the interviewee, uh, your ability to bring about change, implement initiatives, and it shows me that yeah, there's substance to what you're saying. Yeah, and you know you can you're gonna probably have a strong beginning. You're gonna have a strong middle of your interview where you answer their questions, but concluding in a strong way is that helps you seal the deal. It helps you really wrap everything up and gives the interviewer another reason to pick you for the position. So usually you want to have not memorized. I don't like to use the word memorized. I would say rehearsed. You have key points that you want to mention. Have that ready to go, just like you have like your answer to key questions that come up in interviews a lot. You also want to have like a closing statement, closing paragraph kind of ready to go. Um, so there are three things you might want to do. Again, everyone's gonna have their own unique approach. This is my approach. Reiterating your fit for the position. So you might just want to say, oh, yeah, and like I said, throughout this interview, this experience with this organization really prepares me for this position, and I have developed many skills through this capacity that will make me an effective employee. Uh, yeah, and then that segues pretty well into the next point, summarizing relevant skills and experiences. And you also want to give kind of a call to action, as I like to say it. Please feel free to contact me if you have any questions. Don't hesitate to reach out. My inbox is always open, something like that, just to uh, make yourself seem, open, that like the interview isn't the end, and they can always, if they have anything they need to follow up on, the interviewer can feel more than welcome to do so. Yeah, let's go through an example of how to effectively sell oneself in an interview. Let's do that. Yeah. So, Chloe is gonna have some questions for you guys. We're gonna get one person from the audience, if that's okay, everyone. I picked entry-level cashier job at McDonald's because I think that's something that we're all familiar with and that we all have an idea of how that works. Um, and the responsibilities that come with that. If anybody wants to go, I guess you can put it in, like, if anyone wants to volunteer to be the interviewee, you're going to be interviewing for the cashier job, and Chloe's going to ask you a series of questions, and we just want to like go over, we just want to give other people an idea to see what an interview might look like, and because like we've been talking in the abstract, let's see what it actually looks like. So put it in the chat if you're willing to volunteer. If we get no volunteers, I can go, but yeah.
There's actually one person who I can make a panelist, and then they can have access to turning on their audio.
Okay.
Amazing.
So KH, I've made you a panelist. You can unmute and turn on your video if you'd like. You can answer Chloe's questions.
Hi.
Hello. Okay, so what is your biggest strength and weakness?
Well, my biggest strength would probably be my logical thinking. Well, this is because I find that whenever I encounter a problem, I like to think out the solution before I act upon with an action. And this way, I can actually have the most clear idea and most effective way to solve the problem. As for weakness, I would say it is my lack of, hold on, I'm not ready for this, but um, let me give me some time to think about that one. It's a little hard.
You have too many strengths.
Yeah, it's okay. It happens.
So for the first one, I like how the strength you mentioned is really like relevant to the cashier job, the logical thinking. Um, any of the other panelists have any feedback?
Yeah, I think logical thinking is a good one. I would just say in terms of feedback, and this isn't like, this isn't directed at you in particular. I think this is something that's like useful for everybody. Um, Again, like uh come ready with examples. I know we put you on the spot, so don't worry, but like give like an example, maybe with a club your logical thinking helped you plan something like that. That could really like, that could support what you're saying. Uh, okay, if you don't have anything for weakness, I can say something if you want.
Just like from the top of my head, I think a weakness would probably just be uh, I get nervous easily, which can actually lead to a worse impression on like either a customer or a manager or something, anyone to be honest, when like socializing, because it can come off as uninterested or unprepared, which I think even if I am prepared, the nervousness takes over and it seems that I don't really care or I'm not interested, which is probably would be my biggest weakness.
Yeah, that's fine. I think honesty points for honesty. I think that shows a lot of maturity on your part when you're talking to an uh employer, interviewer. Chloe, you can go ahead with a few more questions.
Do we want to see if there's anyone else so we can give more people a chance?
Yeah,
Yeah, sure.
there's one person, Jonathan, who I will make a panelist right now. There you go, Jonathan. You can unmute whenever you're ready.
Hello?
Hi.
Hello.
Okay.
Oh.
So my question for you is, how do you handle stress?
Awesome. Great question right there. So in terms of stress, there are many times where I've had stress in the past. And a key example of this is I'm actually enrolled in the IB program and it's really hectic, and I'm sure you probably in high school, there are times where it can be really hectic for you, right? And so in terms of my stress, I have had infinite situations where I had many stressful situations, and I can actually give you a very good example of this. And this was during math. And what happened was I had a math test, and not only that, but I had a huge assignment due, right? So in terms of my stress level, and I believe the question was how I manage my stress, right? If I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, cool. Awesome. So in that during that time, what I did in order to manage my stress was I basically set up a schedule for myself. And from that schedule, for the future, I sticked to that exact same schedule. And this is this. The fact is I make sure that throughout my weekdays and whenever I am doing work and other things, I make sure to put those in front first. For example, during that math test, and that assignment, what I did was I made sure those were my first priorities. All the other things, like maybe watching TV shows, anime, etc., I put those last, usually during the weekends, etc. So then from that, I stick to that same schedule and went rotating week on week on week. And it really helped me and actually helped pass me through the stressful time that I was in. And yeah, that's how I manage my stress.
Good answer. Good answer. I like that. I really liked your tone and how you took like, a proactive approach to answering the question. And yeah, only feedback I would just say, yeah, maybe like a bit shorter, I would say. But other than that, like great answer. Definitely very relatable. But yeah, yeah. So this next component, we've asked you some traditional questions. Now, a lot of employers and like uh, organizations, they're going to ask you traditional questions. They're also going to ask you some more, unique, non-traditional questions that really test your ability to think critically on the spot and respond to impromptu situations. The questions that Chloe is going to go over next are going to be a little bit more strange, and you're gonna have to respond off the top of your head to these questions. They're going to be a little bit tougher because uh, you can kind of anticipate what type of questions come up in an interview. These type of questions, not so much. So if we have any brave volunteers, um, put it down and put your, just say it in chat, and we'd be more than willing to ask one of you some of these questions.
There's Shreya, so I will make you a panelist. There you go.
Hello.
Hi.
Okay, so my question for you is if you could be a food at McDonald's, what would you be and why?
I think if
This
I
is
was a
McDonald's.
food, I think if I was a food at McDonald's, I would probably be, so I'm vegetarian, so I'd probably be the hamburger since I don't really have much experience with that. But that's because it's something that everybody likes and everybody can work with. And I think that's really important to think about and to be part of as when you're working for McDonald's to be able to work and collaborate with everyone. And that's why I think a hamburger would be a good option to be as a food.
Yeah, I liked how you tied it back to what's it called, the position you were applying for, a cashier job at McDonald's. That's a great answer, and like especially because like you had no idea, what type of question it would be. Uh, Chloe, we can probably get one more person for the creative questions. Thank you, Shreya. Anybody else that's willing to
There's
take
Jessica K, who I will make a panelist really shortly. Jessica, you can unmute.
Jessica?
Jessica, can you hear us? You can unmute yourself.
If not, we can change to another person. I noticed you.
Oh, sorry,
Oh,
I didn't hear at first. It was like a little buffering. Sorry about that.
No issues, go ahead.
Okay, so my question for you is describe a color that you would invent and why.
I would invent. I'd probably have to invent a sort of shade of red, for instance, because I think colors that, grab people's attentions are what makes companies like McDonald's, for instance, appealing. So, our iconic yellow and iconic red and the iconic arch really attracts people's eyes. And so I probably invent a color that pops out to people. So whether that can be used for clothing or whether that can be used for companies, I think I'd invent a shade of red mixed with some type of yellow to bring that really eye-catching pop, and that could also help for companies like McDonald's or any other company like that.
Good answer. Good answer. I liked how you tied it back to McDonald's too, and yeah, that's it. It's a tough question. Good answer. I like that. Yeah. I think that's pretty much it for um the questions we were going to ask everybody. I think we're gonna move on to the next part of the presentation.
So we just have a little short activity to tie everything that we talked about throughout the presentation in. We're going to essentially do this activity. We would like some more volunteers. So basically you're going to be given a topic and an audience, a random topic, random audience, and you're going to pitch it to us as if we are that audience, just 30 to 60 seconds. So make sure you remember the problem that you have, like what need you can solve, the audience, and then just all of those things. Okay, so here's some example topics and audiences. We'll just choose one at random when you come up on the stage.
If anyone is ready, just put in the chat and I will give you access to turn on your audio. We have Raj. Awesome. You're a panelist now.
Hello. So should I just choose it or the topic in the audience, or how should I do this?
We are going to select one at random. Tina, would you like to select?
All right, Raj, you will be pitching sunflowers to aliens.
All right. I'm just gonna start now.
Yep,
So
30 seconds to a minute. Go.
okay, so sunflowers. These are like, so you know how you guys are very you guys haven't experienced Earth. However, one of the most beautiful things in the world are sunflowers. These are one of the best things that we have in the world. They are better than anything else. So compared to humans who are very annoying and weird, sunflowers are nice and they're great, and they're basically, you love them because they're so nice and they're great, and if you guys would love these, you should buy them. Ultimately, they are some of the, they're gonna give you happiness, whereas, and ultimately they will normalize you to humans. Humans will think you're normal if you take these, and um you guys will understand us more if you take some. Try to pitch it. I really think of something for that.
Yeah, that was a pretty tough one. I think we can do, yeah, we can do one more or two more.
Yeah, there's Yusuf A, who is ready to go next.
Hello.
All
If you're
right,
Oh,
Yusuf.
all right, okay. So you guys choose one for me, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Okay, so you'll be pitching cats to the CEO of Google.
Sir, as you see at as you see at the Google search results, you see cats always topping the charts. And I see you don't know what cats are from looking on your face. Cats are these little fur balls that everyone loves. Everyone's love petting, they remove stress, according to these beautiful researches that I pulled up from our own database. They're very useful for research tasks. They're used to help people cope with a lot of things. Plus, they're really cute to look at. They're very pleasing to your eye. A lot of humans like to buy them just to look at and have their homes. Cats also attracts many things, and they're very useful. Cats are useful for hunting mouse, and they're useful for protecting your home. I don't know. I don't know what to say anymore.
It's okay, very nice. So yeah, these are definitely more obscure topics, more obscure audiences that you probably wouldn't be pitching to in real life, but it's a great exercise that you can do even just at home. I think we'll wrap up the audience interaction there, or audience volunteering there. But yeah, you can definitely practice this at home with friends, family members. Just choose a random topic, random audience. Even if it's not a random audience, just pitch a random topic to your friends, your family. It's a great way to get your critical thinking, communication skills up, as well as your pitching skills.
Awesome.
So yeah.
Did you want to? Yeah. So we'll just do a couple questions. This because we're a bit of short of time. And then we'll wrap up. So put all your questions in the chat. This one's question. When you're asked what is your weakness, should you say something which isn't really heavily related to the skills and responsibilities required to the job?
Yeah, so I can answer that one. You should definitely not say something that is, a key skill that they were looking for the job. So something that isn't heavily related, but shows that you're working towards professional personal development. I think a really important thing that if you mention your weakness, talk about how you're trying to improve upon it currently, or how you've been struggling with it, but you're definitely working in a more positive direction. Don't end it off on, I'm really bad at this. End it more on a positive note.
We can do one more. So for really surprising questions that you didn't expect, how do you think of a good answer quickly without getting flustered or stuttering?
I can go for this one. I've been asked some really weird questions. I think the biggest thing that you have to remember is that a lot of other people, like, they're gonna be flustered too, right? You're not gonna be the only one experiencing this. So like you're not in it alone. I would say the best thing, you're not gonna be able to anticipate them. That's kind of the point. So don't bother, like, trying to, like, think of possible questions and then, like, memorizing responses. I would say the best thing is just, like, go online, search up weird interview questions, odd interview questions, and practice your own responses to them. This is something you will get better at over time as you do that, because and there are other areas which will help you develop um, these skills. Like, when you're presenting a presentation without any prior rehearsal, um, that's another skill that will kind of, like, help you with that, because, like, you're being put on the spot. So basically, try to make yourself like step outside of your comfort zone when you're practicing for interviews, when you're giving presentations, when you're um, doing that type of thing, and that'll help you get more accustomed to situations where you don't have a prepared response ready to go. Stay calm. One thing I noticed some people did was, like, that's a great question. I can't wait to answer that. That gives you, when you say something like that at the beginning, I actually like that. It gives you a few more seconds to think about your response. So you can always do something like it's called a lead in. You can always say something like that to buy you more time.
Awesome. Thank you so much. So we'll wrap up just because we're over time. But Chloe, Tina, and Vineet, that was a great presentation. Thank you for involving all the students as well. And great job, volunteers. Great job, everyone. So next up at 1 o'clock, there is a Concept 5K Becoming an Entrepreneur workshop. So if you are interested in that, please join. So yeah, thank you, everyone. I'll see everyone later.
Thank you everyone for coming.
Thank you, guys.